Today, I'm so excited to be coming your way in this bumper episode, and I will be talking about assets. Yes, not financial assets, but emotional assets. 7 of them, and there's one which I think you may have never heard of, but who knows? Listen to the end to find out. Today's episode, I will be talking about 3 things. How does stress get under our skin? Why do we need to address it even though we don't feel it? And what steps can we take regularly to help bring us calm, peace of mind, put us in control, and allow us to bounce back from stress? Welcome to the How Do You Keep Well podcast. I love sharing scientific insights in a simple way to keep you going, motivated, and help you create a positive, healthy, happy, and meaningful life. And guess what? I have been doing this for 1 year. Yay! Drum roll, everyone. And I'm most excited for the energy, the passion, and the insights I keep receiving. And this is just for you. I am a channel, and long may this podcast continue. I'm so excited about the next year of podcasting, and who knows what this may grow into. I'm always so grateful for your support and your love that I keep receiving from left, right, and center. So today I'll be sharing my top 7 emotional assets that has helped me through this journey. And these are assets I would recommend you also develop and practice as you approach midlife. And they will serve you for long through midlife and into older age. They will give you the clarity, the confidence, and the joy to live life to the full. It will give you the ability to achieve those dreams and, more importantly, to be at peace within yourself. I'll give you a sneak peek of the 7 and an extra one you may not have heard of. And this is your mindset, um, being grateful, being kind, being present, forgiveness, savoring, having a creativity outlet, and the last one. Do you want me to tell you now or later? I'll tell you what it is. Tapping. Have you ever heard of that? Okay. Keep listening for more. And I would actually like to tell you a story to start with. Okay. So I am looking forward to seeing my mom. If I don't think I've ever spoken to you about my mom before, but she definitely is one lovely, calm, beautiful woman who I absolutely love. I'm not even sure who I love more, my mom or my dad. But I love both of them. But my dad has gone and passed away several years ago. Um, so now I've got my mom, and I'm looking forward to seeing her this summer by God's grace. As some of you may be aware, I am the youngest child. Yes, I'm the baby for my side of the family. Yeah, I still like being called baby of the family. It's my thing. But guess what? My older siblings are always very quick to let me know how my mom has softened up over the years and how she's not as strict with me as she was with them. Um, if you may, if you want to know, I was a midlife child for my mom, the forgotten child, the child that they didn't expect. And she had me when she was well into her late 30s. And my dad was in his 50s when they had me. So yes, I had a fairly easier ride compared to my older siblings. So what do you think? Do you think life mellows us as we all get older? Do you think we are calmer naturally or more peaceful naturally as we get into midlife? Or do you think the midlife crisis just upsets our well being? Well, one thing I have observed anyway is that even though my siblings thought my mom had mellowed down. I didn't feel that way at all. I thought my mom was the strictest woman in the street. And over the years, I have definitely observed that mom doesn't look that way anymore. She doesn't feel as strict, and I could get away with things a lot more. But definitely, my mom seems to be more at peace than ever before, and she has certainly calmed down over the years, despite having her own health and personal challenges. And for me, that seems like a paradox. When you think that people have health challenges, you would expect them to actually feel downbeat. And to be honest with you, many people do. But I've also found people who are struggling through quite severe health challenges, and they are the ones that actually seem more calm and even more encouraging to others. And that's why I believe our subjective well being, that is the way we feel about life in terms of how happy we feel or how satisfied we are with life, is determined by a number of factors, not just the absence or presence of a physical disease. So, what do you think? Are you in the camp of life satisfaction remains static through life, or improves with money, or declines with health problem? Or are you sitting on the fence? Are you a wait and see? We would know type of person. Well, this is my hope, my dream, and my passion, is to live a happy, healthy life. And I want us to come on this journey together, but with intention. So, quickly returning to my mother's story, some scientists believe that older people maintain their emotional well being and life satisfaction even in the face of age related decline in their income, in their health, in their physical ability, or their cognitive ability, mainly just by adjusting their behavior and having more realistic goals. Many other people learn to maintain their emotional well being by regulating their emotions. They develop their own coping strategies and also their defense mechanism, and it helps them deal with emotional challenges. For me, that was really, really important to actually see that research has shown that. So it gives me hope that there is my emotional well being, that definitely my emotional well being is actually going to improve with time. But also, it means that I have to take some proactive steps to help me. It doesn't happen just like that. So as we approach midlife, it is important we begin to equip and empower ourselves, not just focusing on our physical well being, but also on our emotional well being. I don't know about you, but sometimes, certainly to me, it feels like I'm always dishing out advice. It feels like experts are constantly giving advice, suggestion on how to do this and that. And it can even feel a little frustrating to know the right thing to do. And sometimes there's conflicting information out there. In my opinion, we must just learn to sift information and pick out what works best for us at that stage of life. But a lot, though, is being intentional and putting into practice what we know. That's where most of us need help. I generally am an easy to go person. I love my name. My name is Jaye. My name means enjoy, take life easy. And that's my approach to life. Start small, build up slowly. This is what I want to help you to do today. And today's podcast is going to be focused on two concepts. You will learn how stress gets under our skin, what causes us to act the way we do, and also how stress changes us internally. You also learn how to build your resilience up from nothing, absolutely nothing, and steer your life course through the bumps on the road. But first of all, let me take you through a reflective journey. If you are employed, you may have heard of workplace well-being programs. Have you ever used it before? Well, personally, from my clinical practice, I have observed that despite this well meaning and well funded work well-being program, I'm still seeing a high rate of workers suffering with stress, burnout, nervous breakdowns, general discontent, just quitting, taking time off work because they are struggling. And I think there are a number of reasons why despite all these well funded, heavily funded programs, and I think one of the reasons is that one size does not fit all. If you take one approach and just lump everybody into it, it's not going to suit some people because we're all different. We have our unique past, we have our unique current circumstances, our future hopes and aspiration. We have people who have specific special needs. We have people who are struggling with focus, their concentration, and all sorts. And yes, the workplace is meant to be inclusive of everybody, but we still find that some of these approaches are just like a general approach. And that's why people struggle despite having these programs. But also, we spend a lot of time at work. We meet so many people, and even if you work from home, it is still like your workplace. There's a lot of emotional triggers at work. I don't know if you're what kind of work you do, but the kind of work I do, there's a lot of emotional triggers. People you work with, people you see, people you're trying to help, and despite all these interventions, there are some environments that are very toxic. You know what they say, hurting people hurt others. So you find that people are there doing their own thing, but also not understanding that their actions is preventing other people from moving forward as well. So it's a never ending trigger. So hang on, here is my big idea. You and I have to be an active and a willing participant to work on keeping well in every aspect of our well being. There is no done for you service. And this is the reason I'm constantly cheering you on and giving you tools, ideas that you need to find what works for you at the end of the day. There will be people out there who can support you, but you really need to be intentional about keeping yourself well physically, emotionally, and I say intellectually, also in terms of your social connection. You have to be intentional. Creating time and space now to develop your emotional assets or disciplines will keep you resilient through the storms of life, through the crisis, through the next phase of your life. And you know what? You can do it. Now, this brings me to self care. And it is exactly what it is, your own personalized plan to living well. Well, if you have not seen my YouTube video about how you can create your personalized well being, have a quick listen. But the idea is this: try to be specific about things you can do daily to look after yourself emotionally. It pays off on the long run. The risk of not looking after yourself is that you are creating an atmosphere that allows stress to flourish uncontrollably in your life. Uncontrollable stress can be obviously acute, but becomes chronic. The daily grind of work, traffic, family, your health, your interaction with the society, losing your keys, losing your bank card, your children, or even yourself. Some of us have nagging thoughts towards ourselves. All of this cause acute stress reactions and a sense of feeling overwhelmed. But a constant exposure is what triggers chronic stress. And to be honest, you may not be able to feel chronic stress. It is not visible. And as we learn to adapt to this invisible stress, we carry it on the inside of us. Then gradually burnout occurs. And this begins to manifest in almost every aspect of our well being. Okay, I'm going to take a little break here and I want to go into a little bit of science I'm hoping I can help you understand how looking after your emotional well being is crucial. Now, let's start with this basic thing. Stress has the ability to set in motion a complex set of changes, both psychologically and biologically. Okay. And these changes is what leads to chronic inflammation. You may have heard us talk about inflammation this, anti-inflammatory food, anti-inflammatory tablets, and all sorts of things. Inflammation is what our body uses to fight intruders into our system. Now, when this happens, I always describe it as a battle, a battle between the good and the bad, the villains. And when these bad things come into our body, our good soldiers begin to fight. And when that battle occurs, there would be casualties, unfortunately. And these are the reactions that we see as the pain, the swelling, the redness. Sometimes these are the physical things that we see. And then we use anti inflammatory tablets, for example, ibuprofen, to calm this inflammation down in our body. Now, unfortunately, when it comes to chronic inflammation, it's not often as quickly recorded with signs that are visible. So we've talked about like pain, swelling, and redness that happens. But with chronic inflammation, it tends to cause more internal changes and they only become obvious when a lot of damage has already occurred. Now, how does stress get under the skin to cause this internal or what we call systemic chronic inflammation? It happens in a lot of ways. And I'll try to perhaps give you at least two ways. You won't believe it. It starts in childhood and it often affects how some genes develop and express themselves. So, for example, experiencing early life stress, social stresses, and this can vary in a lot of different ways, whether or not the environment a child is in, or whether or not the kind of parents they have, the kind of family they have, the school setting, and all sorts, especially for children who have a very difficult start to their lives. Now, these stresses can actually affect the way the gene is expressed in childhood. And this unfortunately can promote the development of chronic inflammation easily in the system. Now, the way the genes are affected can actually affect how things get on even into adulthood, even when there is no ongoing stress. Now, these are the changes we call epigenetic changes, and they can in turn substantially affect an individual's mental and physical health, as well as their overall well being and their mortality risk. Stressed kids are likely to become easily stressed adults. Now, another way stress gets under the skin is um, when we face an acutely stressful situation. And for one moment, I would just like to stop there. I'm looking forward to speaking to my next guest. Oh my God. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to speak to my next guest. Her name is Tomisin Balogun, and she has written a book called Purpose in Pain. My goodness. I have been reading that book for the last few days, and she really goes deep down into a pain and um, a very painful situation and how she's turned it around to become a purpose. I know looking back, it's easy to say, yeah, you can find purpose in pain, but she describes pain in a very raw way. And sometimes when we face pain, this stressful situation can often become quite intensified and prolonged. through the way it is internalized. For example, if we have a cold, it can progress into maybe like a chest infection. Okay. So even though a very stressful situation has happened, the body internalizes it and then it becomes like a big chest infection. It may be a transient event, but the way we experience the stressor through rumination can actually prevent us from developing a healthy social relationship due to this persistent negative thoughts about a single past negative experience. Now, that is another way stress gets under the skin. Just the fact that we are constantly ruminating about a painful event. Now, when we constantly ruminate, this sets off a cascade of events internally, and I'll come to that in a moment. So, the general idea is some adverse social experiences can negatively affect the way genes are expressed in our body. Now, let's talk a little bit about genes. Our body is built based on our DNA, right? We understand that. And our DNA has got about 20,000 genes. The genes themselves are inside cells. I mean, if you remember your biology, you remember our body is made of cells. And inside the cells, there are nucleus. And inside the nucleus, that's where our genes are. And these genes all together make up our DNA. Now, these genes inside the cells can actually be switched off and on depending on what is happening inside the cells or outside the cells. And the analogy I can give here is a light bulb in your room. Think about the light bulb in your bedroom. Sometimes you have a switch inside your bedroom, other times you have a switch outside your bedroom. And you can switch on the light in your room on and off from either inside or outside. And that is what it is like in our genes. Those genes can be switched on and off. And our DNAs have special codes that help our body produce the right protein. So when our there's a light switched on, we see light. And that's what happens. Our genes help us to produce proteins that kind of go through our body system. And what happens is that, unfortunately, the cells that house these genes are constantly changing. About 1 to 2% of our cells change every day. The average life cycle of a cell is just about 80 days. So as we age, some cells don't get replaced, unfortunately. So that means they lose their DNA. Okay. And as the cells change every day, it depends on the genes that are actually switched on. So it's only the genes that are switched on that we captured and that then they would keep moving on to the next step. So the question is, what switches the DNA on and off? This is a very complex process, and I'm not in any way a geneticist, but I do enjoy every specialty. That's why I'm a general practitioner. But I also enjoy simplifying things to make it easy for you to understand why our lifestyle plays such an important role in our well-being. So there are a number of processes that will switch our DNA on and off. Remember the light bulb analogy. And scientists have found that these processes are influenced by a number of conditions. It could be a physical, a social, or environmental situation that switches our DNA on and off. So some specific genes are affected. For example, by social isolation. And this has been found on research. And once these genes are switched off due to the way we are feeling when we are lonely, then they affect the kind of proteins they produce. And these are the proteins that is the building block for our immune system, for the way we behave and the way we react to certain stresses. So that is how stress gets under our skin. Okay. I'll break this down a little bit more in a minute. Now, the truth is that science has, especially this insights, has really sparked up the field of human social genomics. And it's giving us a better understanding of the positive and the negative social factors that can cause changes in our gene expression, which, as it turns out, predicts our health and our behavior more strongly than even the kind of code, the kind of genes we have been endowed in. So you see, your genes are not the end of your life story. If you may have inherited certain types of genes, there are certain things that can switch it on and off. And if you know the positive things that can switch it on, then that is great. So let me now get into maybe a little bit more science. Hang on with me, it's going to be very short. So you feel stressed, okay? You feel stressed, or maybe you don't feel it, okay? But what happens is sometimes stress is actual, there's a lion in the room and then you run out. But often you may imagine stress through the way you think, and your body doesn't know which one is real and which one doesn't real. Once your trigger is there, your body starts producing chemicals, cortisol, norepinephrine, and these chemicals is what actually switches the cell wall on. These chemicals go to certain receptors on your cell wall. And once they switch the cell wall in, a lot of changes are triggered inside the cell. They activate some other factors, and these factors, what we call transcription factors, begin to ignite certain parts of your DNA to produce the codes that makes your body produce protein. Now, we are all different and we have different DNAs, and this all influence how strongly these factors bind and stimulate the next steps. So the bottom line is, once these factors, what we call the transcription factors, that leads to the production of protein, they influence the way our body works. They influence our immune system, our metabolism, our physiology. They influence our mood, our cognition, our behavior, and our general health. Now, stress related signaling molecules, like molecules, can have an impact on these transcription factors. Therefore, they can affect the whole human genome. So the next question is, how can we help ourselves? Okay, Dr. Jaye, you have talked about all this science, What are we going to do to help ourselves? Can we control what switches on our lights? What switches on the light bulb? We now know how stress gets under the skin. Can we stop the stress from getting under our skin? Obviously, the number of what causes stress, and a number of what causes stress on that, they're actually outside our control. I keep telling my daughters, you can't drive other people's car, you can drive your car. So the answer is the way our brain perceives the stress. Sometimes our bodies act on impulses that are not actual impulses. Like I said, if I see a snake on, I know some people like snakes, I don't. Um, if you see a snake on TV, and if I see a snake on TV around someone's neck, my body is already reacting as if the snake is there with me. So something activates the system in our body that may actually be imagined or actual. They could be actual. So how can we trick our brain to stop responding from impulses? Do you think there is a way? And of course, yes, there is. This has been backed by scientific evidence and scientific research that our neurocognitive assessment of our social surrounding, if we feel is safe versus if we feel threatened, is a key process for influencing some of these activations that we've talked about, some of these factors. So our belief system about our world is important. Whether or not is a negative one along the lines of a threatening, hostile, unsupportive, dangerous, or inhospitable environment is strongly related to how our body responds compared to our social status or even our connection. So the way the brain appraises our stressor is important. So the way the brain sees these worries, these anxieties, these fears is important. And that's where we can actually train our brain. The way we can train the brain is what I'm going to talk about next. We can use our thoughts and imagination to trigger responses in our system. So, how can we train our thoughts? How can we train our imagination? Now, I must say here that our individual differences play a big role. So, a lot of factors, such as our own emotional resources, so some people actually don't recognize things, and we will talk about this with my next episode, emotional neglect. So your own cognitive ability, your support system, your mental health history, your personality trait all make a difference in the way our brain can appraise stress. So a lot of evidence is out there that psychosocial interventions have beneficial effects on the way our genes express itself. So that's why things like cognitive behavioral therapy, meditation, stress management, mindfulness, and even pro-social behaviors, volunteering, kindness, that's the reason they work, they work, they work. So this is how our emotional well-being influences our health over our lifespan. Our brain is great. It's great at learning great habits. If we can persevere, remember that neuroplasticity theory that once a new pathway is formed, it becomes easier to do things without any fuss. And this is my reason for advocating we all adopt and nurture a regular emotional wellness discipline at some point in our life. And there are, like I said, 7 disciplines I will personally recommend, and these are all based on scientific evidence, like I have discussed earlier. There is one extra one. So I'll probably call them 8 disciplines, but I don't know so much about this last one, but I'll leave you to find out yourself. You choose which one you find easiest and slowly build on this. Okay. The first one is your mindset. You need to cultivate a growth mindset. Understand your intelligence, your talent, your skills can be scaled up by training, by dedication, by recognizing that we are all born with the ability to change or improve with time. Focus on how much you're learning. Remember that improvement is not automatic, it is a process. Okay. The second thing is gratitude. Gratitude has the power to heal, it has the power to energize, and it has the power to change you. And it is a spectrum. You can sit quietly and just have this internal sense of being grateful, or you can go out to genuinely thank people for what they have done for you. So it is a spectrum. It does. And a lot of science has proven that it improves your mood, it reduces your stress level, it lowers your blood pressure, and it strengthens your immune system. The third one is kindness. Seek out opportunities to do acts of kindness. I know it's everywhere, pay it forward and all sorts of things. But like I said, it's becoming intentional about doing this. The way I do it is each person that comes to me in my consultation room, I just give it my best shot to be kind and speak kindly to people. It brings me joy and it will bring you joy, you know. And the way I describe it is do kind things, think kind thoughts, notice kind things in the world. And when you kind of think and focus on these things, then you would attract a lot of kindness to yourself. Now, the fourth one, I think, is mindfulness. To be honest, our minds wander about 46.9% of the time. This has been shown by science. We all have wandering minds. Some people are a little bit more predisposed to it than others. And you can imagine this is very tiring for the brain. To be honest, a wandering mind is an unhappy mind, and it keeps moving from one place to the other without actually being able to land anywhere at all. The idea of meditation and mindfulness is to try to bring your mind into a focus point. And this focus point could be anything. For me as a Christian, I use the Bible I use a Bible passage, I use a Bible verse, and I just focus on it. Sometimes I use my breathing. Sometimes I use my body sensation. And that's where some people recommend these body centered practices or body centered therapies. And one of them is tapping. I will come back to that in a moment. You can focus on your thoughts. And that's where, remember, we can bring positive or negative thoughts. You can focus on having compassion and just think through that very gently. And the science behind this is not just woo woo. Honestly, it isn't. It is proven scientific facts that they work. Now, if you find it too much for you in any way to do any of this, why don't you just take a mindful break? Try to take your mind off things, have zero, nothing that you're thinking about, and just say in quietness and peace. And remember, this is about developing practices that help you feel calm and gives you a peace of mind. Now, the fifth one is forgiveness. Hmm. I have learned a lot of lessons here personally. And forgiveness, I see it as a number of steps. It's not a one off event, it's a number of steps you have to go through to release yourself from everything binding your spirit, your soul, and your mind. It is an intentional process of accepting you have been wrong, whether rightfully or wrongfully. You are choosing to release the hurt. You are choosing to release the pain and the judgment. You are preferring to change your mind and your thoughts when these thoughts come up over and over again. And those are the three steps. And it's not a one-off step, it's a constant, consistent effort because mind you, these thoughts pop up every time. Almost like they are tempting you every time. So you have to go through those three steps. Accept it, release it, change your mind. Forgiveness helps you to take, what I call perspective taking, take things into perspective, begin to find benefits of what you're going through, but also get some practical help if you're really struggling. Self healing helps you regulate your emotions better. It makes you become a stronger person. Remember, you can't stop a bird from flying past you, but you can stop it from laying a nest in your head. The sixth one is savoring. It's the joy of experiencing positive emotions. It's like daydreaming. I love it. When you go on a holiday, you want to rewind that memory over and over in slow motion. Recently, we went on a holiday and I just loved taking a video of the sea, and loving the water, seeing all the bubbles, seeing the waves, seeing the water crashing into each other, and just rewinding this good memory in slow motion. And the way to do it is when you are doing that particular whatever it is that you have chosen to experience the positivity, try to be present, taking every single moment of it. And then when you are away from it, replay it over and over and over and just enjoy it. Tell people about it. Be intentional in tuning in into what is good in your life. And for me, the seventh one is big, is creativity outlets. Find what ignites you is important. Find your side passion, something positive and do it. It may be little, you may hide it, but whatever it is. Journaling for me, my podcast is my creative outlet and I enjoy it. Now, the final one, and this is the one you've been waiting for because I know you must have heard about all these other seven disciplines before. And the final one, for me, it is relatively new. And I'm looking for someone who really knows about it for us to sit down and talk about it. It is tapping. I don't know if you've heard about emotional freedom tapping. I have heard about it. I've seen it, but you know what? I thought I would research a little bit. What is the science behind this? And the idea is that it's a way of connecting your body to your mind. very similar to these age-long traditional practices. It's an ancient practice, very similar to acupuncture. I know you've heard about acupuncture, and the thought of needles going into my body gives me the jibs. But tapping is like acupuncture, but without needles. And it's like placing pressures on certain points in the body. And do you know what? I'm sure you've heard about acupressure, especially for women who maybe have been pregnant and have very bad nausea and vomiting, and they wear these acupressure bands. Have you heard of that before? And I think that's what tapping does. It places pressure on certain parts of your body. And from my understanding, it works by rewiring the nervous system, especially the parasympathetic nervous system, which I kind of alluded to earlier on, where we were talking about stress and we were talking about the chemicals that are released, and these chemicals are released as a reaction to the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, and tapping works by repetitively tapping certain parts of your body using some empowering words and your focus, and I think it's all of these three things that work together. Now, a word of warning, this generally, from what I understand, is not mainstream practice. There's a lot of research around it, but some of the research, some people feel could be also placebo effect. Some people report it more positively than they should. But again, it's difficult to know what's right, again, with all of this. But I think it's worth exploring if you're interested in it. It's a simple practice and it would help you feel better. And it's one that is completely under your control. So, my friends, what do you think? That's it for today. So, what I would say is try to work on one of these practices. Have some time to reflect on your journey. Set some boundaries to protect yourself. Engage in learning. Get some support from your friends or family or professional. Your emotional well-being is a state of you feeling happy, healthy, and satisfied with life, irrespective of your current physical health. We as humans have a remarkable ability to shape our gene expression through our thoughts and our belief. So why not give it a go? If you are not convinced yet, ask yourself, how happy are you right now? On a scale of 1 to 5, write this down. Now, if you don't like that number you've written down, I would encourage you to do something about it. And here is my challenge for you this week. Okay? Pick one of these assets or disciplines I've talked about earlier on. Personally and socially commit to it. Okay? Have a strategy. Find some support that would help you stick with it. Track your progress as often as you can. Keep a journal. Celebrate your wins. Thank you so much for listening today and making it this far. This is Dr. Jaye. I'm so grateful for your support. Please remember to share your thoughts and the lessons you have learned with your friends, and I'm sure they will see you shining. I can assure you. They will keep wondering what it is that is making you smile. But also remember to share, to like, subscribe, and leave some feedback for me from wherever you're listening to. Thank you and have a wonderful, wonderful month. Bye.